In this video, we'll learn how to search for products by category. Alrighty, so our release 2.0 plan from the boss, he gave us this big long list. So our current task right now is searching for products by category. So for this given feature, we'll have our application. Over on the left-hand side, we'll have a menu, a list of links or options here. And when you select the link, it'll show you the products for that given category. And the best way to get an idea about this is to take a look at a demo. So let me swing over here to my web browser, Love to Shop. And over on the left-hand side, we have our links. So if I select books, it gives me a list of books. I hit coffee mugs and I have a list of coffee mugs. So again, it's actually showing you the products based on the given category. So it'll show you books or it'll show you coffee mugs based on those links. And in a video series coming up here, we'll learn how to write all the code behind the scenes to make this happen, to make this work. Alrighty, so let's take a look at Angular routing. In Angular, you can add links in your application. The links will route to other components in your application. Angular routing will handle updating the view for your application. And just like the demo I showed you earlier, we have links over on the left-hand side. And if you click that link, then a section of the page is updated. So it'll only update a section of your page. It doesn't reload the entire page. All right, so that's the whole idea of the single page application. Only makes partial updates to your given page. And Angular can help us with this. Alrighty, so with the Angular routing here, there's some key components here. So we have the router, it's the main routing service. It enables navigation between the views based on the user actions. For example, clicking on a link. We also have a route, so it basically maps a URL path to a component. There's the router outlet. It acts as a placeholder, so it renders the desired component based on the route. You have the router link, so that's your link to specific routes in your application, kind of like that menu that we saw. And then we have an activated route. So it's the current active route that loaded the component. And this is useful for accessing route parameters. So for example, we can use this to actually access the category ID that's passed over by a given router link. Now we'll see code examples of all of these components in the upcoming slides. And so we'll actually write code to use all 5 of these components here. And there's also more to Angular routing. So you can access the link here on the page for more details. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at our development process. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll define the routes. Then we'll configure the router based on our routes. Next, we'll define the router outlet. We'll set up router links to pass over the category ID parameter. Next, we'll enhance our product list component to read the category ID parameter. And we'll also modify our Spring Boot application because the REST repository needs a new method for handling category ID. And then finally, we'll update our Angular service to call the new URL on the Spring Boot app. Alrighty, so I'm kind of excited. Let's go ahead and dive in here. So in step 1 of defining the route. So a route is a path and a reference to a component. So when the user selects the link for the route path, Angular will create a new instance of the component. And so here I'll set up my routes. And so the routes is simply a comma delimited list of route items. They specify the actual path to match. And then when the path matches, it's going to create a new instance of a given component. So in this example, when they go for products, then we'll create a new product list component and pass the appropriate data to that product list component. Now, one thing to make note here is that the path has no leading slashes. All right. Angular will handle that part of it for you. We can also add a route to show products for a given category ID. So here I have my routes and I have this entry here for category /:ID. So this says that category ID is a parameter. The component can read this later on and show products for this given category. And we can also add more routes to handle for other cases. So here's my list of routes. Note here entries number 2 and 3. This is for category products. There's no category ID given, so internally the component will use the default category ID. And I'll show you how to write the code for this to handle this given scenario. And then also here, I have path, so no path is given. So here we say it's simply going to redirect to /products. Now, notice here, this is one exception to the rule about no leading slashes. So when you do a redirect, then you can make use of leading slashes to access a given route. And then also the path match. This basically tells us how should we match on the path. So here, full means to match on this path exactly. The default option is prefix, which means match if the path starts with a given value. But in this case, we want to match exactly. And the final item here is the generic wildcard. We use the ** for this. So this will match on anything that didn't match the above routes. So this is kind of like your else case if nothing else matched up above. Now, one thing to be aware of here is that the order of the routes is important. So the first match wins, going top down. So when you define your routes, you should start from the most specific route all the way down to the generic route. And you can also add a custom page not found component for 404s. So in case the user gives something that doesn't match, instead of redirecting to the main page, you could say, hey, send this to my page not found component. Now, this is a custom component that you create. You can give it any name and you can provide your own custom view. So it's totally up to you as far as how you want to handle this given scenario. So one thing to be aware of here, be sure to place this last, because remember, the order of routes is important. So the first match wins, going top down. So when you write your routes, start from the most specific to the generic. And if you'd like to see examples on how to create a custom component for this page not found, then go to the link here that I have on the slide.